welcome to this video. I will admit I'm not used to being on camera, so I don't exactly know what I'm doing here, but I thought I would give it a go. This is something a bit weird, a bit interesting, and a little on the fly, mostly improv, so I'm sorry if this isn't so concise. I kind of got this idea because I was watching a film and I saw some pieces of it. I thought, oh, I really like that. You know what? I want to try and make a module of it. And I was thinking, well, maybe some other people have done that too. Well, no, I'm certain other people have done that too. So I thought I would talk a little bit about adaptation. It's kind of a tricky thing to do, obviously. It's one of the reasons why you've got so many films, that video game films and TV shows that don't really work properly, because you can't take the full experience of a video game and translate it directly into a film or TV show. It's why it's a game rather than that originally, right? And if you did translate it 100% across for something such as, say, like Final Fantasy, it would be very weird to watch, because you'd be sat there looking through turn orders and things like that as you're waiting for people to, click through and defeat the monster. So obviously you've got to take some liberties. That being said, I guess a lot of actual play shows are kind of like that, in the fact that you're watching people play actually D&D rather than it being condensed. Personally, I prefer more condensed, edited down shows than actual plays. You also go to watch actual plays for the personalities of the people rather than the actual, module. I feel like for a successful adaptation, you need to at least grasp the feel of the work. While it may not be 100%, as long as it feels like it belongs within the wider body of the source material and sort of scratches that itch, I'd say that's a successful adaptation. I often watch things and find, myself wanting to play it in a TTRPG. And for certain systems, certain shows, I can do. For example, Lord of the Rings, there's the One Ring system. There you go, that's the start set. There's the One Ring start set, where I can pretty much pretend to be a hobbit, and this game feels like the films and the books. When playing that, it feels like how I feel when I watch the films and when I read the books. And so this is a successful adaptation of Tolkien into a TTRPG, at least I'd say so. However, you can't really take one for one every piece of media and make it into a TTRPG, right? It's just not feasible. So you have to, shape things into pre-built systems. Definitely can be done. I would say Ravenloft is an adaptation, at least heavily inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula. And having played Curse of Strahd a couple of times through, I definitely feel like it captures that aspect if the GM runs it right. And that's something that I'm looking to do with this, right? I want to try and take elements from this film that I've recently watched and turn it into a module. Similarly enough to Ravenloft, it is a old gothic horror film. However, this one is about a witch rather than a vampire, though she is very vampiric. The film I'm talking about is Black Sunday, also known as The Mask of Satan, directed by Mario Bava, 1960. It's an Italian gothic horror film. Bit of a B-movie, kind of campy, but I love the camera movements, the cinematography and the lighting, as well as the set design in this film. I fell in love with whilst watching. And it also has a lot of tropes that you could see in D&D. And so the film starts off with these two doctors who are on a carriage traveling in not a far off land, but an isolated place. I believe it's in Moldova. And they are going through, they take a shortcut on this carriage through a haunted forest. While going through there, their cart crashes, the wheel comes off, and the cart driver claims that a branch reached out and tried to attack him. So already that feels, to me at least, like a D&D start, right? The party's on a carriage, you introduce them all, everyone it goes around. Yeah, you're going through these dark woods, and then after everyone has introduced themselves, maybe had a little bit of RP, crash. The cart has broken. Everybody gets off. The coach driver apologizes and says, oh, please, you need to find some shelter. It's cold, it's going to be raining soon, I'll fix this. And as you're all standing around talking, maybe arguing over how you're going to fix the cart, that's when you hear a ghostly moan. And it seems to be coming from, just beyond your vision, an old temple. It's been overtaken by nature. Well, what could be in there? That could be your starter dungeon. Just as in the film, these doctors go to investigate what this strange moaning is. And they go through, and they, after being feeling a little spooked, discover that it is wind that is going through an old organ. So, pretty rational. And I quite like the idea of that. You could have this starter dungeon where the players are going through and they have some maybe illusions or slight scares. Maybe there is a trick or trap with the forest, right? Maybe some foliage and things like that that seemingly grabs players by the ankles. But it doesn't necessarily have to be animated branches and whatnot. It could be, oh, maybe you have just tripped. They're not entirely sure if it's magic or not. Then they can go down. Once they've found that this organ is here, they also notice that there is an entryway to a crypt, which is seemingly open. And when they go down there, they find coffins and the sort. The core of this dungeon, though, is to the back room being the crypt of the witch, which has already been broken into. In the film, they find it, they see the witch's body, and they think, well, this is strange. Watch this woman doing lead in here, or this decomposed, mummified sort of skeleton being led in here. There's a cross and a window. The cross stopping the witch from being able to rise from her grave, as she's always looking towards the holy symbol through this window. As an adventure, I would make it so that this has already been interrupted. The doctor could have already been down here, had a look over, and he has set her free without people knowing it. And so the players go around and there's a little bit of investigating to do. I would also put in a definite encounter in here as a giant bat, because in the film, when the doctor's down there, a giant bat seems to come out of nowhere and attacks him and he has to kill it. That's actually how it breaks open. And I just kind of love that. This low sort of level mob just coming out of nowhere and beating up the party. There you go. That's an easy encounter right there, right? After you've done that, well, this was a bit spooky, but hey, our cartwheel is fixed, let's get on, and you go along. And in the film, just as I would put it as in a module, you come to a tavern. Whoa, always got to have a tavern, there's a place to eat, place to rest, also a place to talk to some villagers about, well, we came across some old temple that was overtaken by nature. What is that? There, some exposition can be given. So here in the tavern, taking some more elements from the film, there's a young girl who says that she has seen a strange man walking around the graveyard. She doesn't recognize him. He was dressed in old clothes and armor. She doesn't know what he was doing there, but it's strange that a man at night would be just seemingly traipsing around the graveyard. And this little girl says, he looks quite scary. There you go. You've got something to go to. Also, the villagers tell the players about the local lord who is ill, and there is a doctor who came through here to go and visit him. Villagers may be going and paying respects to the lord, maybe offering tithes or something like that, at least, in a way paying their respects, which could be a reason for the players to go to the castle. Another location that I would put for later down the line would be a hermitage where a priest lives, or a folklorist of some kind who knows a lot more about the supernatural in factual ways than the villagers do. I would have it so that a lot of the villagers have them as these tales and old wives' tales and rumours, some of which are false, but then this priest knows fact from fiction and he might be able to tell people about weaknesses and the sort. I think that could be a good contact to have. But if he's like a hermit and he's on pilgrimage or something like that, a little ways out from the village, maybe even in the opposite direction of the castle, so that you can't just go up and along straight to the castle. You've got to have, a reason to. Gives them a choice, a divergence in the path, right? Something else that I would have in the film, they don't really do this, but originally the witch was killed by placing an iron mask on her face, or a bronze mask on her face. I think this could be an interesting item to find. Maybe even in the grave where the Igor was, you could find a bronze mask, and this priest, who the hermit priest, he would be able to say, if you place this mask on the face of the witch, then that will kill her. So you've got a BBG, you've got a couple of locations. You need a big, bad lair, which is the castle. Now, what I would do with this is have the castle is half and half. There is where the living descendants are. You have the Lord, who is very sickly and dying. You have the Doctor, who has now been turned into a servant of the witch. He is a ghoul, though because he is very early days, he doesn't look to have become undead yet, but he is under the control of the witch. And then there is the young lady, the daughter of the Lord. And so the way the dungeon could work is you go through and you're walking through this castle, and there are lots of secret passages and the sort. And the witch and Igor, as well as maybe some minions, she could have some wolves and obviously bats you've seen, and undead likely, being sort of a necromancer and a witch and the sort, that use this to go in and out of the castle where the living people are. Maybe it could also be, if you're going with a bit more of a vampiric style, all of these secret passages, there are no windows or anything like that. It's impermanent darkness. The film also has a pit trap just in a tunnel in the castle, which I absolutely love. Definitely would steal that. There's lots of old armor. Animated armor is something else that I really like. Just walking past something, or Scooby-Doo style, suddenly the armor leaps out at you and grabs you. There's also the secret passage the main secret passage that leads to the lair of the witch in the film, as well as if I was going to adapt this into a module, I would put it in a big old in the hall, the feasting hall, where there is a large fireplace and the family insignia which hangs above the fireplace. And left and right of this on the walls are old family portraits, one of which is of Igor. And if you pull that back, you can see that there is a hidden lever. And once that is pulled, the fireplace inside opens to reveal a false wall. And that leads to the secret room where the witch is being kept. I would personally keep the witch as almost like a supernatural phenomenon for her most part. While she's frail and weak, she has potent magics which are able to trick and harm players from far away. Things like animating people, illusions, all that sort of stuff. Maybe even controlling, enthralling, appearing in their dreams, right? Or as nightmares. That sort of thing, to really lay in this presence. But once they eventually find her being physically weak, Igor is the muscle of the pair, right? And then the Doctor is sort of like their envoy to walk amongst the living. The dungeon itself, we've got Igor, I imagine would be a definite wandering encounter, and he is trying to find the princess. Maybe she is also like a wandering encounter, where you go down a room and you find her and she's a little stressed out. Maybe she knows that the witch is after her. Maybe she's been attacked by Igor once and managed to escape. And so it's almost like this game of cat and mouse. Adventurers have to try and protect her or convince her to leave with them or something like that. But the witch won't stop. So the witch needs to be stopped. So they can't just leave forever, right? Eventually she'll come after her. And think of all the people, all the villagers, if they couldn't just leave them to be under her rule, right? And so, obviously, I haven't fully thought this through. Like I said, it's kind of an impromptu thing. But I noticed that there was a lot of elements in this film that just screamed Dungeons and Dragons to me, right? From pit traps to giant bats, spooky forests and taverns. There you go, right? It's everything that you could want in a gothic horror adventure. So let me know in the comments below. Are there any films, TV shows, books, comics, anything like that you have gone through and stolen pieces from and adapted into your own games, or anything that you've would love to see as an adaptation in a game that you play? thanks for watching. As always, it's been lovely talking to you. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you again hopefully next week. Bye bye now.